And you do, guys? Java?
Rails.
Ruby. How many? Java. Okay, .NET. Okay, PHP. My homie. This is how I started. That's good. And the last question is, do you know what PhoneGap is? Maybe you can raise your hand if you know. Okay, have you built a PhoneGap app? Couple of you. Do you know what PhoneGap build, the cloud service is? Okay, so at least I have one thing for you guys. Right, so a short history. When you want to create mobile apps, there are only 3 different methods. So on one hand, you have the native way. You are going to use Objective-C for iOS, Android SDK for Android, and so forth. And then the other end of the spectrum, you have mobile web apps. So you are going to use HTML, JavaScript, and the app is going to run inside of a web browser, a mobile web browser on that mobile device. And right in between these 2 methods is the hybrid way. Now, the hybrid app, it has something from the mobile app, from the native mobile app, because it is always distributed as a native installer. And usually it has some native part, but it also has something from the web apps, because it is built, at least the UI of the application and most of the business logic, it's built using HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, and it runs inside of a Chromeless browser called usually a WebView component. Now, why would you use PhoneGap? So I guess the number 1 reason usually is that mantra of multi-platforms developer, like writing once and run everywhere that application, right? So this is maybe the selling point or the main selling point for PhoneGap. And in truth, actually, for many use cases, this is exactly what you are going to get. You'll be able to write your application using PhoneGap, JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, and it will run on 8 different platforms with either no changes in terms of code or minimal changes. So this is probably the reason number 1. Also, maybe you want to reuse your skills. If you're already very good with JavaScript, HTML, and JavaScript, it's no-brainer. It's a really good place to be. And also, as I said in the beginning, it gives you a native installer. So unlike as a mobile web app, you'll be able to sell your application or distribute it for free through application stores like Android Marketplace and so forth, which is really great, right? These days, everybody wants a mobile app. Now, the next question would be when PhoneGap is actually maybe the best solution for you. I think the first question you have to ask yourself, do you want to have your mobile application on multiple mobile platforms? Like, do you care about iOS, maybe, and Android, and Windows? If the answer is yes, PhoneGap should be on your short list, right? If you care only about one platform, like iOS, let's say, maybe it would be like a good investment of your time to spend some time with Objective-C and be really proficient with the native way of building. But as soon as you add a second or a third platform to your needs, it's really hard to keep up with all these different native tool chains. Objective-C and Xcode, Android SDK and Eclipse, Visual Studio, and so forth, right? Also, maybe you already have like a really cool web app for the desktop, and you only want for your mobile users to add some more flavor, to add some more mobile capabilities, like maybe you want to add some integration between your web app with the camera, with the accelerometer, gyroscope, and so forth, right? And guess what? You don't have access to all these device-native capabilities from the browser. But PhoneGap gives you access to these cool things, right? You're not convinced. You are so serious. The police is gone, really. I talked to them in Romanian. They're like, ah? Can I see your passport, sir? No. Right. Who's working on PhoneGap? Of course, Adobe. So Adobe bought the Canadian company who started the project back in the days last year. So Adobe is still working on PhoneGap. We are really proud of PhoneGap. But there are also others. So Microsoft joined the project to make sure that the support for Windows is top-notch. So Microsoft is also contributing. It's the same story with RIM. IBM has its own interest, like they want to build like an enterprise mobile solution around PhoneGap. So there are many people, which is good for the project because it will be like reassurance for you that the project will still be there or here around us 2 years from now or 3 years from now, because there are many contributors. What about its usage? The first figure, I think it's really interesting. So last year in September, 4% of all the applications available for iOS devices were developed with PhoneGap, which to me, it's just amazing. It's really amazing. 4% of them approved, right? So applications that you can download were developed with PhoneGap. Also, in terms of interest from developers around the world for PhoneGap, we've been seeing like more than 100,000 downloads on a monthly basis lately, which is huge. And we are seeing like new countries not only doubling, like the number of downloads from China grow by 800%. They are like number 2 after the United States. And Brazil and other countries around the world. So it's really hot. PhoneGap, it's hot. I feel hot. It's really hot outside. And okay. We have time for questions. They are not free.
How many successful applications were built on PhoneGap?
Many. I have a cousin who, yeah.
How do you deal with different interface styles between iPhone and Android?
Okay. Can you remind me the last part of the question when I will be at the slide that talks about what you can use for building? Because I think it makes more sense. Okay. And if you have questions, yeah, just ask. I mean, I'm afraid to say no. You are very, yeah, fighters. Okay, PhoneGap. PhoneGap supports 8 different mobile platforms. Tizen from Intel was the latest addition, and then you have the usual suspects. I realize that, yeah, you have to trust me. You can't really read what it's. I could say anything here on the slides. So yeah, trust me. It works on iOS, it works on BlackBerry, it works on Windows Mobile, it works on Android, it works on Bada, even Symbian. And in terms of built-in capabilities, when you start using PhoneGap, everything you see on this column, it's available, it's built-in, right? So you'll have access to accelerometer, you'll have access to camera, you'll have access to all sorts of notifications and network status. You'll be able to reach for the MP3 library that's available on that iPod, for example, and play the songs or whatever. So it's really good. But what about features that are not here? Like, let's say you want to create like a crazy Croatian regatta application that uses gyroscope to whatever. And gyroscope, it's not here, right? What do you do? Well, you have to work. And the way you get around this issue is by writing a plugin. And this is probably the power of PhoneGap, and probably this is also one of the reasons PhoneGap became such a successful project. Because you can actually extend the platform. You don't have to wait you don't have to wait for the PhoneGap core developers to support the latest feature that it's available maybe on only one device. You can actually start writing a plugin. And the plugin has 2 different parts. First, it has like a native part that will actually use that public native API, in our example, gyroscope. And it will expose that capability to some JavaScript API, right? And that JavaScript API will be what is going to be used in the PhoneGap app by the regular web developer, okay? And if you want to support the same feature on a different platform, you're going to reuse the JavaScript part of the plugin and add another native part maybe for an Android device. Suppose there is gyroscope on Android or whatever. And you get the picture, right? Instead of, like, the JavaScript will be the same, the JavaScript API, but you will have like different native parts. And this is how you extend the platform. Who's using PhoneGap? I already told you, like my cousin is using PhoneGap, but doesn't make a difference to you, right? My cousin is just normal people. So I figured out it would be best to give you like big names, right? Names that stick to your mind. So yeah, Salesforce is using. Have you heard of Salesforce? That's good. Bravo, Ivan. IBM, as I told you, has like an enterprise solution built around PhoneGap, and also SAP. Recently, they are very interested in PhoneGap. Now let's see some PhoneGap apps in action. Have you seen a PhoneGap app ever? No one? Even those who said they built PhoneGap app, you didn't try it? You just run it on a piece of paper? That's okay, this is how I started back in the 80s, my first program. I kid you not, it was during the Ceausescu, so yeah. I had to use a pen and I waited 1 year to get my hand on a computer. HC90, a Spectrum. Right, so here's my iPad. This is Wikipedia app. It's funny that they switched to PhoneGap at the beginning of this year. So they used to have like a native app, and for some reason, they switched to a PhoneGap app for their apps, at least for Android and iOS. I'm not aware if this app is presented on BlackBerry or Windows Phone. So, Wikipedia, what can you do? Search for something. So I'm a poor Romanian, what do I know about Croatia? Nothing. Zagreb, I can search for something. Okay. And at some point, the internet will do the magic and I will get the information, because the application is just a front end. So all the Wikipedia wisdom, it's not actually packaged with the app. So the app is talking to Wikipedia servers. And okay, you have a really nice flag over here. Okay, I know where you are. It's good to know.
We don't see nothing.
You don't see nothing. It is, yeah. I can show it like this. It's much better, isn't it? So yeah, it's really nice. A nice flag, a nice picture. Is this your city? It's really nice at night. And yeah, I'm a Romanian, so I heard of a famous scientist called Nikola Tesla. And I was thinking he's a Serbian, right? So let's see, Nikola Tesla. Yeah, I can search for Nikola Tesla. Okay, I have a result, amazingly. Oh no, he was born in modern-day Croatia. That's awesome. So he's not Serbian. It's very useful. You see? Okay. It was nothing fancy, right? I mean, no 3D transformations, no, I don't know, unicorns. But at the end of the day, it's just a Wikipedia app, right? You go there to search for something, you read, and then you move on. Like, I'll move back to Bucharest. So, let's see something more interesting. Is it better? Untapped. Have you seen this app before? So, if you like beer, and you have a wife, your chance to get out with the boys, right? To sample some beer is to install this app and pretend, look honey, I have to prepare for my next session. I will show this app, so I have to give it a try. It's an app for people who love to drink beer and share their knowledge and experiences with others around the world. So what can you do with this app? First of all, this is how the app looks after you start using it. Depends on how big you are. So for me, after 2 beers, it's like this. Okay. And what can you do? You can go to your tab and see what was the latest beer you had. So I have here, last evening here in Zagreb, Ojusko? Yeah. Pretty much, right? I was with another 5 Croats. I was the only one ordering this one. All the others ordered something that is Czech, right? Czech beer. But they told me, don't worry, it's really good. Okay. So it's a really nice app, right? It's a PhoneGap app, so you have access to camera. Obviously, I took this picture. I didn't draw it. And also, it uses geolocation, so you can check in the pub. You actually have that amazing experience. And you can also rate, not rape. And you can also discover. So if you are anything like me and you end up every now and then in a strange city, you might wondering like, what would be like a nice local beer? And you have like a Discover tab, and again it uses geolocation and it searches for pubs nearby and beers that are local, right? I mean, I can have a Carlsberg or Heineken back home. There's no point for me to try a Heineken here. It would be really different. So you can go to, I don't know, beers. And if there are Croat people using, I should have some tips like Pan Tamni, Velebitsko Tamno, Velebitsko Zvižatlo, Karlovarko, Radler. It's awesome, right? It's okay. I think it's here. And it's the same with bars, and you can also see what your friends are doing, like what they've been drinking. Oh, Ivan just asked me, is asking for my friendship. Okay. Mr. Ilishaj. Okay. And the interesting thing about this app is that the UI is pretty much the same between the Android app and iOS app. So I open up the app on my iPad, and you can see it's the same yellow theme. And the only difference they did between these two apps is like moving the tabs at the top of the app at the bottom for iOS. And also, of course, adding the back button, right? You have to have a back button on iOS. But this is really the only difference, okay? And the final app I want to show you is called PhoneGap API Explorer, which is a PhoneGap app that teaches you how to build PhoneGap apps. This isn't amazing? So you have all the built-in APIs. So let's see the camera. This is my favorite part of the demo, actually, aside of testing the beer before the event. So you can see the APIs, and you can see over here the JavaScript code you have to write if you want to use the APIs. And you can actually test it, right? So you can see the camera app started, so I can take a picture of you. You don't have to smile. You can wave, it's okay. And now I have you here. It's amazing. It will be a nice token to keep me thinking about you. And you can see that you can use the picture once it's taken in your app and do whatever you want to do, right? So it's a free app, good for you. You can try it and learn more about PhoneGap. Okay. You guys have way too much fun. You are laughing so much. It's really good to be here. How do you build PhoneGap apps? Well, it's not that hard. But the interesting, and we are getting to your question, sir. The interesting part is that PhoneGap SDK or library doesn't come with a UI framework. So it gives you access, JavaScript APIs, to all sorts of device native capabilities, but it doesn't give you a UI framework, like a bunch of list components, buttons, view navigators, and so forth. Which means that you can actually use whatever you want. Okay, so some people are using for UI, are using jQuery Mobile, and jQuery Mobile has built-in CSS themes for iOS and Android. And basically, when you drop buttons from the jQuery and list and whatever, it will automatically style that list and button to look like an Android when the code it's running on an Android, or like an iOS if it's running on iOS. Other people are using something that it's more, let's say, light. It's not. It doesn't impose on you the whole architecture of the jQuery in terms of how to build the UI. So there are people who are using Bootstrap, for example. Bootstrap, starting with version 2, if I remember correctly, added support for mobile. Bootstrap UI from Twitter. Others people are using Sencha. So there are a bunch of UI frameworks to pick from. In terms of MVC frameworks or whatever else you need in your JavaScript app, again, you can pick up whatever you want, jQuery and, I don't know, Backbone, AngularJS, and so forth. In terms of the process, because you are writing basically HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, you are going to use probably, or you are going to stick to your favorite one, right? Use your favorite text editor or IDE, or your favorite browser, because probably it's easier and faster to test the code on your desktop browser, and only after this you move on to device and test the code over there. Which brings us to this slide. How do you package, right? So you wrote your JavaScript code, your CSS and HTML. The application, it looks amazing. It's the best amazing Croat application in the world. It's a PhoneGap app. How do you get the native installer so you can actually get rich and publish that application to Apple App Store or Google Android Market? There are two different methods. You can either use a bunch of PhoneGap plugins that get installed in the native tool, like Xcode, and you are going to use Xcode with that PhoneGap plugin to build the IPA file for iOS, and then move to Eclipse and another plugin for Android and build the PhoneGap app for Android and so forth. Or you can use a cloud service called PhoneGap Build, which is really amazing. And don't worry, there is a free version, right? It's from Adobe, so yeah, it's amazing. Basically, you can either upload a zip file with all your files to our servers, and our servers will start crunching the bits and in the end produce like the installers for 6 different platforms. Or you can be really smart, use GitHub for your project, and then you provide your GitHub repo URL to PhoneGap Build, and PhoneGap Build will go to GitHub. Hey, GitHub, give me that amazing app, and we'll do the same, crunching bits and numbers and so forth. So I was thinking maybe I should show you actually how easy or how hard it is to build with PhoneGap. So I have here on my computer an application I was playing with at the beginning of the year. It's an application you can use to split a restaurant bill, so you can do something like this. There are some bugs over here, as you can see. Okay. And you can add another person and add more beer. And this is the app. So it's JavaScript, CSS, and it uses, by the way, jQuery. And I have the same app hosted on my GitHub repository over here. So what I can do is actually to grab the URL and then go to PhoneGap Build and say, okay, I want a new app. I'm already signed in my account. And I can paste the URL over here or choose this option to upload the zip file. And once the PhoneGap Build retrieves the repo, I will have an option to start the building process. And as I told you, it will build for 6 different platforms: iOS, Android, Windows Mobile, BlackBerry, WebOS from HP, and Symbian. And okay, ready to build. And when the app is, when the build finished, I'm going to use this QR code in order to trigger the installing process on my phone. Now you see here like a red box. It means that the iOS building failed. Okay? Why did it fail? Because I didn't upload the certificates to sign the code, right? If you ever try to develop for iOS, like a native app, you know that you have to register yourself as an iOS developer with Apple, pay $100, and then download a bunch of certificates. Once you get those certificates, you can go to this website, upload them, and then the build for iOS will be successful. Trust me, I've seen it. Okay, so it's still working for Android. Okay, it's ready. So let's do something like this. We have 5 more minutes, right? It's finished. 9 seconds. That's good. So I'm going to use the barcode application on my phone. Take a picture. Open the URL. Okay, it will download. Almost there. Come on, come on. Okay. Install. open the app. And this is it, right? There are more features available, like you have an emulator, you have a debug option for your PhoneGap. All these are in my slides, and at the end I have a bunch of resources if you want to get started. And if you have questions, you can get to me through my blog, corlan.org, or through my Twitter account. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed.